Sometimes the reason you feel alone isn't because you're forgotten. It's because you're chosen. There are moments when the world feels silent, when every prayer echoes back at you unanswered. You wonder, why me? Why does life feel heavier for those who try to do right? But the truth is, when God chooses someone for greatness, He also chooses them for breaking. Every chosen one has walked through loneliness, not as punishment, but as preparation. Moses wandered the desert before he ever led a nation. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers before he wore the crown. David faced rejection before he was anointed king. And Jesus himself, the Son of God, was despised, misunderstood and crucified before he rose in glory. Loneliness isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's often proof that you're walking the narrow path few dare to take. The crowd cannot go where you're going. The chosen ones are separated, not to be forgotten, but to be purified. When God wants to use you, He will first strip you of every false comfort. Friends disappear. Plans fail. The spotlight turns off. And there you are, face down, with no one left but Him. That's the sacred place of transformation. That's where ordinary hearts become unbreakable. So, if you're feeling broken tonight, remember this. Gold is purified by fire. Diamonds are formed under pressure. And chosen souls are shaped in silence. Your pain is not wasted. Your isolation is not the end. It's the beginning of something divine. You are not alone in your loneliness. You're just being prepared for a life that few can carry. Before every great voice is heard, there comes a season of silence. And that silence is God's classroom. There's a holy stillness that surrounds those who are chosen. It's not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of shaping. You see, before God releases a voice that shakes the world, He first quiets the noise around it. He removes the distractions, the unnecessary people, and the temporary applause. Because destiny requires focus, and focus requires solitude. Sometimes you cry and no one answers. You shout into the heavens, and all you hear is your own echo. But that silence is not rejection. It's a sacred invitation to listen differently. God is not ignoring you. He is refining you. He is teaching you to hear whispers instead of applause, truth instead of trends, purpose instead of popularity. In those lonely nights, when tears fall on your pillow, heaven is writing your strength in invisible ink. The chosen ones are often hidden while the world chases attention. They are being built in the shadows while others seek the spotlight. What you think is delay is actually divine development. When you feel unseen, remember, David was tending sheep when God called him a king. Joseph was in a prison when heaven called him a ruler. Jesus was in a carpenter's workshop when eternity called him Savior. The silence before the calling is not your ending. It's your anointing in disguise. So don't curse the quiet seasons. They are proof that God is close. You don't need the crowd to validate your destiny. You only need His voice. When everything around you grows still, it's not because you're forgotten. It's because you're being formed. The silence is sacred. It means your time is near. God will break you before He blesses you, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you into something unshakable. There's a mystery in the way heaven works. Before every chosen one rises, they must first be broken. It's not cruelty, it's construction. God cannot fill what is already full. He cannot shape what refuses to bend. So He allows the storm, the betrayal, the heartbreak, not to end you, but to empty you. When everything you trusted starts to fall apart, that's when God starts to build something new. You prayed for strength, and He gave you struggle. You prayed for wisdom, and He gave you confusion. You prayed for growth, and He gave you pain. Because growth never happens in comfort. Look at Joseph. His dreams didn't die in the pit. They began there. Look at Job. When everything was taken, That's when he met God face to face. Look at Peter. His failure became the doorway to his calling. God uses broken pieces to build unbreakable vessels. The chosen ones often feel crushed under the weight of trials, but that pressure is divine design. Diamonds are not born from comfort. They are forged in darkness and heat. The breaking is the blessing in disguise. Every tear, every sleepless night, every rejection. It's heaven's hammer shaping your destiny. So when you feel like your world is falling apart, don't lose hope. Sometimes the breaking of your plans is the making of your purpose. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. The pain that breaks you today will be the strength that builds you tomorrow. Let God finish what He started, even if it hurts. Sometimes God isolates you not to punish you, but to protect you. Because not everyone can handle the weight of your purpose. There comes a point in every chosen life when God begins to pull people away. Friends drift. Relationships collapse. Doors close. You start wondering what you did wrong, when in reality, heaven is editing your circle for your safety. Not every hand that claps for you is clean. Not every voice that praises you is pure. God sees what you cannot. He removes those who would weaken you before they can wound you. It's painful to lose people you love, but purpose requires pruning. Just as a gardener cuts branches to make a tree bear more fruit, God cuts attachments that would choke your growth. You might not understand it now, but one day you'll thank Him for every goodbye that saved your destiny. Look back through Scripture. Abraham was called to leave his homeland. Elijah hid by the brook. Jesus went alone into the wilderness. Isolation isn't abandonment. It's divine alignment. God hides you to heal you, shields you to shape you. The crowd cannot go where you're going, and some people can't breathe at the altitude God is taking you. While you're alone, heaven is surrounding you. Angels work in silence, building paths that eyes can't see. You might feel forgotten, but you're being fortified. You might feel rejected, but you're being redirected. The chosen ones are never truly alone. Their isolation is the holy ground where divine intimacy grows. So stop chasing those who walked away. Their part in your story is complete. If they were meant to stay, they could have survived your growth. Trust the pruning. It's proof that something greater is coming. Your isolation is not the absence of God's love. It's the evidence of His protection. He pulled you apart so He could pull you higher. Delay is not denial. Sometimes God makes you wait, not because you're unworthy, but because your destiny isn't ready yet. Every chosen one will face the long hallway between promise and fulfillment. You've seen the vision, felt the calling, prayed the prayers, and yet everything seems still. The doors won't open, the opportunities fade, and time becomes your greatest enemy. You start asking God, "Did you forget me?" But the truth is, waiting is heaven's workshop. In waiting, pride dies. In waiting, faith grows. In waiting, character is carved. The wilderness doesn't destroy the chosen. It defines them. God delays the blessing until your foundation is strong enough to hold it. He won't release destiny into immature hands. That's why the waiting feels heavy. It's shaping you from the inside out. Moses waited 40 years before leading a nation. David waited years between the anointing and the throne. Even Jesus waited 30 years before beginning his ministry. The greater the calling, the longer the preparation. The chosen ones are not trained in comfort. They are refined in patience. When God seems silent, it's not because He's idle. He's orchestrating divine timing. He's aligning people, places, and paths so that everything fits perfectly when your season arrives. You may not see it, but heaven is moving behind the scenes. So don't despise your waiting season. Stop comparing your timeline to others. Flowers bloom at different times, but each in its own beauty. God hasn't forgotten you. He's perfecting you. When it feels like nothing is happening, remember, the roots grow deepest before the tree ever breaks the surface. Your waiting is not wasted. It's working wonders in silence. Pain is not proof that God has left you. It's often the sign that He's closer than ever, reshaping you for something greater. Every chosen one knows the sting of pain, the kind that shakes your faith and questions your worth. You look at the broken pieces of your life and wonder why God allowed them to fall. But pain in the hands of the divine is never wasted. It's the furnace where faith is purified, where your purpose begins to breathe. Sometimes God lets your heart break so your vision can open. He lets what you wanted die, so He can give you what you were meant for. Pain humbles the proud and awakens the asleep. It strips away illusions and forces you to depend on the one who never fails. Look at Job. When everything was stripped away, he found a faith no storm could shake. Look at Paul. His thorn in the flesh became the testimony that God's grace is sufficient. Look at Jesus. His greatest pain on the cross became the world's greatest redemption. The pattern is clear. Pain precedes purpose. If your heart is aching, it's because heaven is doing surgery. God doesn't wound to destroy. He wounds to heal. The chosen ones must bleed before they bless, must cry before they carry glory. Your tears are not weakness. They are liquid prayers that rise higher than words ever could. Pain doesn't mean God has turned against you. It means He's turning you into someone new. The fire that feels like it's consuming you is actually refining you. When you come out of it, you won't just survive, you'll shine. Your greatest purpose will rise from your deepest pain. Don't run from it. Let it teach you what comfort never could. When everything burns, the chosen don't run from the fire. They find their faith inside it. The fire is never comfortable. It takes everything you thought was secure and reduces it to ashes. But it's in that fire where the chosen ones are revealed. Anyone can praise God in comfort, but only the chosen can worship in chaos. Only those who've walked through flames understand that faith is not built on feelings. It's built on trust. You see, God never promised a life without storms. He promised His presence in the storm. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't avoid the fire. They met God inside it. Daniel wasn't spared from the lion's den. He met God inside it. Jesus didn't escape the cross. He conquered through it. The fire doesn't prove God's absence. It reveals His power. When you're chosen, you'll be tested. People will doubt you. Life will stretch you. But fire only destroys what's temporary. It refines what's eternal. The pain, the betrayal, the tears, all of it burns away the parts of you that can't carry your future. In the fire, faith becomes real. It stops being words and becomes breath. It becomes the heartbeat that says, even if He doesn't deliver me, I'll still trust Him. That's the kind of faith that shakes hell itself. So when your life feels like it's burning, don't panic. Don't run. Look closer. The same flames that scare you are the same flames that free you. God is not punishing you. He's purifying you. Fire doesn't destroy the chosen. It defines them. Stand still in the flames. Your faith will rise from the ashes stronger than ever. When you can't see the way, that's when God is asking you to trust the voice, not the view. The chosen ones often walk roads covered in fog. Nothing seems clear. Every step feels risky. And yet something inside whispers, keep going. That whisper is faith. Faith is not seeing the path and walking anyway. Faith is not understanding the plan and trusting the planner. When you are chosen, you don't get the luxury of certainty. You get the gift of trust. God hides the details because He's building your dependence. If you could see everything, you wouldn't need faith. So He lets you walk through the dark to teach you that His presence is the only light you'll ever need. Abraham walked without a map. Noah built a ship without rain. Peter stepped out of a boat without logic. Faith is never comfortable. It's courageous. It's believing that if God called you, He'll carry you, even when everything around you screams impossible. There will be days when fear shouts louder than faith, when doubt claws at your peace. In those moments, don't run to people. Run to His promise. Faith grows in silence, in solitude, in surrender. The chosen ones are trained in uncertainty, so they can lead others with confidence. The truth is, sight deceives, but faith delivers. What looks like loss is often preparation. What feels like ending is often beginning. Every blind step is still a step toward destiny when God is guiding your feet. You don't have to see the whole picture to trust the painter. Walk by faith, one unseen step at a time, and watch how heaven unfolds the path beneath your feet. Rejection isn't your enemy. It's God's redirection in disguise. Every chosen one will taste rejection. You'll be misunderstood by the people you helped, ignored by those you believed in, and abandoned by the ones you thought would stay forever. But hear this truth. Rejection doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means you're being rerouted to where you actually belong. Sometimes God lets doors close because He knows the rooms behind them would suffocate your purpose. You keep knocking, begging to be let in, not realizing that His no is saving you from disaster. Rejection is protection. The people who walked away weren't meant to carry your calling. If they could walk away easily, it means they were only attached to your comfort, not your destiny. Think about Joseph, rejected by his own brothers, sold as a slave, forgotten in prison. Yet every rejection moved him closer to the palace. Think about Jesus, despised and crucified by the same people He came to save. Their rejection didn't stop His mission. It fulfilled it. The chosen ones are never truly rejected. They're redirected. What feels like betrayal today will make sense tomorrow when you see where it led you. Every painful goodbye, every denied opportunity, every closed door is heaven whispering, "Not here, not yet, not with them." Don't let bitterness take root in the soil of your heart. Let go of the pain before it poisons your purpose. Forgive quickly, release freely, and trust completely. God removes people when their part in your story is done. Rejection isn't the end of your story. It's the moment. God begins a better chapter. The door that closed wasn't your prison. It was your protection. The greatest battles of the chosen are not fought in public. They're fought in silence, on the battlefield of the mind. Every chosen one faces wars the world cannot see. Smiles hide exhaustion, strength masks scars, and faith trembles under the weight of unseen warfare. The battle is not always with people. It's with thoughts, fears and doubts that whisper, "You're not enough." But remember, every chosen soul is targeted because they carry light. Darkness always attacks what threatens it. When you are chosen, spiritual warfare becomes real. You start questioning your worth, your purpose, your future. The enemy doesn't fear your past. He fears your potential. That's why he tries to break your confidence before you step into your calling. But what the devil meant for destruction, God turns into direction. Every sleepless night, every tear, every inner fight, it's building strength that no applause could ever give. David didn't just fight Goliath. He fought his own doubts first. Jesus faced temptation alone in the wilderness before facing the cross. The chosen ones don't just conquer the world, they conquer themselves. Victory begins when you learn to silence the voices that speak against what God has already declared about you. When your mind becomes a battlefield, hold your ground with faith. Speak life over yourself when no one else will. Pray even when you don't feel powerful. Worship even when it hurts. Every time you choose faith over fear, heaven wins another victory inside you. The fiercest battles produce the strongest warriors. The chosen are not destroyed by what they fight. They are defined by how they stand. The greater your calling, the heavier your cross will feel. Many wonder why chosen ones break down, why they cry alone when no one is watching. It's because their soul is being trained for something eternal. You see, ordinary people carry comfort, but chosen ones carry purpose. And purpose is never light. When you are chosen, life doesn't go easy on you. God allows pressure to form power. He allows pain to prepare purpose. You are being stretched not because you're weak, but because you're destined to carry more than others can. Every lonely night, every rejection, every heartbreak, it's not punishment, it's preparation. Sometimes God hides you in isolation because He's shaping you in silence. He's teaching you to stand without applause, to believe without proof, to trust without answers. And when you finally rise, the world will see strength, but they will never understand the storms that built it. Chosen ones don't pray for lighter burdens. They pray for stronger shoulders. You were not made to be understood. You were made to be unshakable. The very thing breaking you now is what will make your voice unbreakable later. So don't curse the weight. Wear it like armor. Don't run from the struggle. Rise through it. Because when your soul has carried enough pain, your spirit will carry enough power to lift others who are falling. The calling on your life is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be eternal. Every scar is proof that you were trusted with something holy. Before God lets you lead the crowd, He will first teach you how to walk alone. Every chosen one must pass through a season of silence, a time when no one believes in them, no one stands beside them, and every prayer feels unanswered. That loneliness is not rejection, it's refinement. God separates His warriors before He sends them. When you are chosen, isolation becomes your classroom. You learn that real strength is built in private. You learn that leadership is not about position. It's about endurance. While others seek validation, you learn to seek vision. While they chase applause, you chase purpose. You may ask, why am I alone? Because if everyone could walk with you, it wouldn't be destiny. It would be comfort. God is not trying to make you popular. He's trying to make you powerful. He removes distractions so your spirit can finally hear His direction. Every prophet walked alone before they spoke for nations. Every savior stood misunderstood before they brought salvation. The chosen ones must first be cut from the noise before they can create clarity. That silence you hate, it's where your spiritual hearing grows sharper. So stop begging for company in a season meant for consecration. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. The loneliness that hurts today is the foundation of leadership tomorrow. Alone doesn't mean abandoned. God hides His strongest soldiers in quiet places, not to break them, but to build them into leaders the world can't shake. Pain is not your enemy. It's your greatest teacher. Every chosen one must learn to embrace the ache that others run from. Pain doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to develop you. It's the fire that purifies, the storm that strengthens, the pressure that reveals who you truly are when everything else is stripped away. When God wants to elevate you, He doesn't send comfort. He sends challenge. He doesn't hand you strength. He trains it through struggle. The tears you cry in silence are watering the roots of your destiny. The heartbreaks, the disappointments, the betrayals, they're not the end. They're evidence that heaven is still shaping your story. Every powerful voice was once a broken one. Every healed heart was once shattered. Every anointed hand once trembled in pain. The chosen ones learn early. Pain is sacred. It connects you to compassion, humility, and faith. Without pain, you would never understand the depth of God's peace. You may not see it now, but every scar carries a message, a story that can save someone else later. When you rise again, you won't just rise for yourself. You'll rise for everyone who once said, "I can't." Your endurance will become someone's inspiration. So don't curse your pain. Let it carve strength into your spirit. Don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What is this teaching me?" Because every chosen one must first bleed before they can bless. Your pain is not wasted. It's the proof that you are being prepared for power. The fire didn't come to burn you. It came to build you into something unstoppable. Real peace is not found when the storm ends. It's found when your heart learns to stay calm inside it. Chosen ones are not promised a life without storms. They are promised strength within them. The world may fall apart. People may walk away. The plans you built may crumble. But peace is not about what's happening around you. It's about who lives inside you. When God chooses you, He teaches you how to stand in chaos with unshaken faith. You stop chasing calm circumstances and start carrying calm within your soul. That's the difference between those who panic and those who pray. One sees the waves. The other sees the one who walks on them. Peace doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means pain doesn't control you anymore. It means you can smile through tears, move through fear, and still believe in what you can't yet see. It's the quiet power that tells the storm, "You can roar, but you cannot rule me." Every chosen soul learns that real strength is silent. You don't have to defend your peace, prove your worth, or fight every battle. When God fights for you, your silence becomes your weapon, and your stillness becomes your statement of trust. So when chaos surrounds you, don't pray for escape. Pray for endurance. Don't beg for smaller waves. Ask for stronger faith. Because peace isn't the absence of trouble. It's the presence of purpose in the middle of it. The chosen ones don't wait for peace. They create it by trusting the hand that holds the storm. The world shakes, but their spirit stands still. When people walk away, don't chase them. Sometimes rejection is just God clearing your path. Every chosen one must face rejection. Not once, not twice, but again and again, until they finally realize it wasn't a curse, it was correction. God removes people and opportunities not to punish you, but to protect your purpose. Rejection hurts because we don't see what's ahead. We cry over closed doors, forgetting that some doors lead to destruction. We beg for approval from those who were never meant to understand our calling. But remember, when man says no, heaven might be saying not yet or not there. When you are chosen, rejection is God's way of redirecting your steps. He doesn't want you to build your destiny on unstable ground. That job you lost, that relationship that ended, that friend who stopped believing in you, they were never meant to go where you're headed. You can't carry everyone to the next level. Some were only meant to teach you strength before you got there. Don't take it personally when people turn cold. Sometimes God hardens their hearts so you can finally let go. You don't need validation to walk in purpose. You need vision. And vision often grows in the soil of rejection. Every no is a setup for a greater yes. Every betrayal is a doorway to breakthrough. Every loss is a lesson that sharpens your spirit. The chosen don't crumble when they're rejected. They rise because they know redirection always leads to resurrection. Rejection is never the end for the chosen. It's just heaven's way of saying, you're meant for more. Before God trusts you with influence, He will test you with isolation. Every chosen one goes through a season that feels unfair. A season where nothing works, no one understands, and every door seems to close. But this is not punishment, it's preparation. God tests in private what He plans to use in public. If your faith collapses under pressure, you're not ready for purpose. That's why He lets the storm come. Not to drown you, but to reveal what's still weak inside you. You can't carry divine purpose with fragile character. So He refines you, tests your patience, your humility, your obedience, until your heart beats only for Him. Tests are not meant to break you. They're meant to prove you. Just like gold is purified by fire, chosen souls are purified through trials. When you feel forgotten, you're not being overlooked. You're being observed. Heaven is watching how you respond when no one claps, when no one sees, when no one believes. That's where trust is built. God cannot promote what hasn't been proven. Before he places you on platforms, he places you in pressure. Before he gives you influence, he gives you inconvenience. He's not checking your comfort. He's checking your consistency. So when life feels hard, when you're tested beyond your limit, remind yourself, I'm being trusted with something sacred. The delay is not denial, it's development. Chosen ones don't just pray for blessings. They pray to be ready for them. Every test is heaven asking, can I trust you with more? The strongest moment in your life will not be when you fight. It will be when you finally surrender. The world teaches strength through control, but God teaches strength through surrender. For the chosen ones, true power begins when you stop forcing and start trusting. When you stop holding on so tightly and let God take the lead. You are not losing when you surrender. You are allowing divine strength to replace human struggle. The chosen ones often fight battles that were never theirs to fight. They try to fix what only faith can heal. They try to open doors that only heaven can unlock. And when they finally let go, peace floods their soul like sunlight breaking through clouds. Surrender is not weakness. It's the highest form of wisdom. It's saying, God, I don't understand, but I still trust you. It's falling to your knees not out of defeat, but out of divine alignment. Because when your plans end, his purpose begins. Every chosen soul must learn that surrender is the bridge between pain and power. You can't carry the cross and your ego at the same time. You can't ask for miracles and still hold on to control. Letting go is not giving up. It's giving God room to move. The moment you surrender, fear loses its grip. Doubt fades. Anxiety breaks. Because now, you're no longer leaning on your own strength. You're standing on his promise. Surrender doesn't mean you've lost the battle. It means you've finally realized who's really fighting it for you. Falling doesn't make you a failure. Staying down does. Every chosen one falls. Every strong soul has tasted weakness. Every warrior has faced a moment of defeat. But what separates the chosen from the ordinary is not that they never fall. It's that they always rise again. The world will remember your victories, but heaven watches your comebacks. God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for persistence. When you fall, don't hide in shame. Stand up in grace. Because every fall is a lesson disguised as a wound. Every scar is proof that you were stronger than what tried to break you. Sometimes God allows you to stumble not to humiliate you, but to humble you. To remind you that without him, you can't stand. And with him, you can't fall. Failure is not the end of your story. It's the training ground for your testimony. You might feel unworthy, but remember this. Peter denied Jesus 3 times and still became the rock on which the church was built. Your mistake does not disqualify your mission. God doesn't discard the broken, he rebuilds them. So rise again. Even if your knees shake, even if your heart aches, rise again. Because the same God who saw you fall has already prepared the strength to lift you higher. The enemy celebrates when you stumble, but heaven rejoices when you stand again. Chosen ones are not defined by how many times they fall, but by how many times they refuse to stay down. The waiting room of God is never empty. It's filled with those he's preparing for greatness. Chosen ones are never given things instantly. They must wait. Not because they are forgotten, but because they are being formed. Waiting is the hardest test of faith, the season where everything is silent, yet everything inside you is being strengthened. In waiting, God is not delaying your destiny. He's developing your depth. You may feel stuck, but heaven is working behind the scenes. What looks like a pause is actually preparation. What feels like a delay is divine timing aligning the pieces you cannot see. The chosen learn that patience is not passive. It's powerful. It's the ability to trust God when nothing makes sense, to believe in promises that haven't yet appeared, to keep walking when the path seems endless. Waiting refines faith like fire refines gold. Abraham waited decades for his promise. Joseph waited years in a prison. Even Jesus waited 30 years in silence before 3 years of miracles. Every chosen one must learn the art of divine timing, because the blessing that comes too early can destroy what it was meant to build. So if you're waiting, don't lose heart. You are not behind, you're being aligned. The longer the wait, the greater the weight of glory that's coming. Patience is proof of trust. When you can worship while waiting, you've already won half the battle. Loneliness is not always emptiness. Sometimes it's God's way of calling you closer. Every chosen one walks through a season of silence, a space where people disappear, noise fades, and only your heartbeat and your prayers remain. In that stillness, you start to realize the loneliness you feared was never punishment. It was invitation. God sometimes removes the crowd to get your attention. He takes away the applause so you can hear his whisper. You think you've been abandoned, but you've actually been chosen for deeper connection. When the world grows quiet, heaven begins to speak. The chosen ones learn that solitude is sacred. It's where vision grows. It's where strength matures. It's where your relationship with God stops being religion and becomes revelation. In loneliness, He doesn't just comfort you, He transforms you. Stop running from being alone. Sit in it, listen, pray, cry if you must, but know that in every tear, He's building trust. You may not see it, but God is training you to depend on Him, not on people. Because when your peace comes from His presence, nothing external can destroy it. One day you'll thank Him for the silence that saved you, the isolation that refined you, the loneliness that taught you how to love His voice more than the world's noise. Chosen ones discover that being alone with God is never lonely. It's where broken hearts are healed and lost strength is reborn. If you can find meaning in your pain, it will never have the power to break you again. Every chosen one must face suffering, not because they did something wrong, but because they are being shaped for something right. Pain is the tool God uses to carve greatness into the soul. It breaks the pride, refines the heart, and reveals what truly matters. You see, suffering doesn't destroy purpose. It defines it. Without pain, you would never develop empathy. Without loss, you would never learn gratitude. Without struggle, you would never discover the depth of your strength or the beauty of your faith. The chosen ones stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" They realize that even the hardest seasons are lessons written by a loving hand. Every tear becomes a seed of transformation. Every wound becomes a window for light to enter. When you suffer, it's not a sign that God has left you. It's proof that He's still working on you. The potter never wastes clay. He only presses harder when he's shaping something valuable. So don't curse the pressure. It's producing purpose. Pain will either make you bitter or better. The choice is yours. The chosen choose to let it purify them, not poison them. They use their suffering as fuel, their scars as stories, and their weakness as worship. The chosen ones don't escape suffering. They elevate through it, because when you find purpose in your pain, even the wounds start to worship. Faith that isn't tested can't be trusted. Every chosen one must walk through fire, not to prove something to the world, but to prove something within themselves. Faith is not built in comfort. It's born in chaos. When everything around you is shaking and you still choose to believe, that's unshakable faith. Trials are not the absence of God. They are the evidence of His investment in you. The storm you're facing isn't random. It's refining you. God doesn't test to break your faith. He tests to strengthen it. Just like muscles grow under resistance, your spirit grows under pressure. The chosen learn that faith is not a feeling. It's a decision. It's choosing to believe even when your emotions scream the opposite. It's standing firm when logic says give up. It's walking forward when you can't see a single step ahead. You don't need to understand every trial to overcome it. You just need to trust the one who allowed it. Because sometimes God calms the storm, but sometimes He calms you and lets the storm rage. Either way, you win. Faith is not about escaping the fire. It's about knowing the fourth. Man is already in it with you. The chosen don't panic when life burns around them. They remember who stands beside them. Unshakable faith doesn't mean you never fear. It means your trust in God is louder than your fear. The trial didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal that your foundation cannot be moved. Every chosen one walks through a season where they are misunderstood, doubted, and even mocked. Yet that very misunderstanding is the soil where greatness begins to grow. When God sets you apart, the world won't recognize you immediately. People only see the surface, the strange silence, the isolation, the intensity in your eyes, and they call it pride, arrogance, or confusion. But heaven calls it preparation. You see, before every celebration, there is always a season of being misread. Moses was misunderstood when he left the palace. Joseph was misunderstood when he dreamed too boldly. Even Jesus, the purest soul, was misunderstood by his own people. So why do you think your path should be any different? Chosen ones are often accused before they are anointed. People will say, "You've changed," when all you've done is grow. They will say, "You're distant," when you've simply learned to protect your peace, and they will walk away. But that's part of the divine filtering. God removes those who can't handle where you're going. Don't waste your energy trying to explain divine things to people who only see the human side of you. They won't understand why you keep believing after so many failures, why you still show kindness after betrayal, or why you keep walking when your feet are bleeding. They don't understand because they were not chosen for your mission. When the chosen are quiet, it's not weakness, it's spiritual focus. When they cry alone, it's not defeat, it's sacred transformation. The crushing, the confusion, the isolation, all of it refines your heart into something that can carry heaven's fire without burning out. One day, the same voices that questioned you will whisper your name with respect. The same people who left you will say, "I always knew you'd make it." But by then, you won't even care, because you'll have learned the deeper truth. Being chosen was never about being liked. It was about being ready. So if you feel misunderstood right now, smile. That's your confirmation. You're not behind. You're being built. You're not forgotten. You're being formed. Before every chosen one rises, they must first walk through the valley of loss. Not to destroy them, but to detach them from everything that cannot go where they are going. Loss is not punishment. It's preparation. God uses subtraction before multiplication. He takes away to make space for something eternal. You see, when you are chosen, you can't carry excess weight. Not in your heart, not in your circle, not in your spirit. Sometimes the loss will break you in half. The people you trusted vanish without explanation. Opportunities collapse just when you were ready. The door you prayed for opens, then slams shut in your face. You'll sit in that silence and wonder, why me? But that's where heaven whispers, because I'm building you for something beyond what they can see. Look at the pattern. Before David became king, he lost his peace, his home, and even his reputation. Before Joseph wore the crown, He was thrown into a pit by his own brothers. Before Jesus resurrected, he first had to be buried. Loss is not the end for chosen ones. It's the sacred beginning of transformation. The pain of loss strips you of pride. It burns away the false identities. It teaches you to live not by what you have, but by who you are in God's eyes. Every tear that falls becomes a silent seed that grows into divine strength. You stop chasing validation and start carrying vision. You stop running after people and start walking with purpose. When you lose what you thought you couldn't live without, you discover what was eternal all along, your faith, your calling, your divine connection. And when you rise again, you rise lighter, sharper, stronger. You rise with gratitude instead of greed. You rise with humility instead of hype. Chosen ones don't just survive loss. They are redefined by it. Because loss doesn't just take away. It teaches. It shows you who's real, who's temporary, and who's divine. So if you're standing in the ashes right now, don't curse the fire. That flame didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal what can't be burned away. The fake will fall, but the real will remain. Every loss is a sign that your next level requires less baggage. And when you finally rise, you'll thank God not for what you gained, but for what He took. Because now you're free enough to fly. Every chosen one must go through a hidden season. It's the time when no one calls, no one notices, and everything feels silent. Your efforts seem invisible, your voice unheard. You start to wonder, did I miss my purpose? But heaven whispers, no, you're just in hiding. Hidden seasons are sacred seasons. They are where God shapes the unseen part of you. Your character, your patience, your humility. He's not denying your destiny. He's defining it, because public power without private preparation leads to collapse. David was hidden in the fields long before he faced Goliath. Moses was hidden in the desert before he confronted Pharaoh. Even Jesus lived 30 silent years before his 3 years of miracles. God always hides greatness before He reveals it. So when the time comes, the weight of glory doesn't crush you. It's hard to stay faithful when no one's watching. It's painful to keep giving when no one claps. But those who endure the hidden place are the ones heaven can trust with influence. Your unseen obedience is your secret training ground. Every unnoticed effort is recorded in eternity. You see, being hidden is not the same as being forgotten. A diamond doesn't lose its value just because it's buried underground. The process doesn't destroy it. It defines it. When God finally brings you to the surface, you'll shine differently, because pressure has shaped your soul. So if you feel invisible right now, don't rush out of your season of hiding. Let God finish what He started. You are not being ignored. You are being incubated. And when the time is right, no one will be able to stop your reveal. Because it won't be your timing. It'll be His. When God hides you, it's because the spotlight right now would blind you. But once He's done refining you, the same people who couldn't see your worth will wonder where you came from. And you'll simply smile, because you'll know the truth. You were never missing. You were just being made. Sometimes the most powerful thing God can do for you is hide you, not to punish you, but to protect what He's preparing inside you. Pain, it's the language heaven uses to speak to the chosen. Not because God enjoys your suffering, but because pain translates truth in ways comfort never can. You can't become who you're meant to be without walking through pain. It's the classroom of the chosen. It breaks the pride, reshapes the heart, and teaches you to depend on something greater than yourself. Pain refines what praise can't reach. Everyone wants power, but few want the process. Everyone prays for purpose, but no one prays for pain. Yet purpose and pain are twins. They walk hand in hand. If you study the lives of every chosen one, you'll see this pattern. The deeper the calling, the heavier the pain. pain reveals. It exposes who's real around you. It filters your friends, your motives, and your fears. When you're in pain, you stop pretending. You stop impressing. You become authentic. That's where real strength is born. Not from applause, but from endurance. Sometimes pain is the only thing that silences your distractions long enough for you to finally hear God. Because when everything's comfortable, you don't listen. But when your heart breaks, your soul becomes attentive. That's when divine wisdom flows. Joseph's pain didn't destroy him. It positioned him. Job's suffering didn't erase his faith. It purified it. Jesus' pain didn't define defeat. It delivered salvation. So why are you afraid of the thing that God uses to make kings out of ordinary people? When the chosen ones hurt, they don't just cry, they sense or sure. And they grow. They learn to transform wounds into wisdom. They learn to love even when they've been betrayed. They learn to rise without revenge. Pain is not just a scar. It's a secret language between your soul and heaven. If you are in pain right now, don't waste it. Don't run from it. Let it mold you, sharpen you, and teach you what peace really means. Pain will make you sensitive to others, patient in storms, and powerful in silence. It will turn your heart into a refuge for others who are still bleeding. And when it's over, you'll realize something beautiful. That pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to deliver you. Every tear you cried watered a seed of wisdom. Every sleepless night built a stronger spirit. Pain doesn't mean God left you. It means He's trusting you with a lesson too deep for ordinary souls. Because pain, though it breaks you, it also builds the chosen. The loudest battles in life are not fought in chaos. They are fought in silence. And the strongest warriors are not the ones who shout the most, but the ones who can stay still while the storm rages around them. Stillness is not weakness. It's a weapon. It's the moment when the chosen stop, reacting to the world, and start listening to heaven. Because when you are still, your spirit becomes louder than your circumstances. You start hearing clarity instead of confusion, purpose instead of panic. In a world that glorifies noise, constant movement, endless opinions, and restless scrolling, stillness becomes rebellion. It's saying, I don't have to rush. I don't have to prove. I don't have to compete. The chosen understand that movement without meaning is just motion, and motion without direction leads to exhaustion. Every great leader, every chosen soul, learned the power of stillness before destiny called their name. Moses stood still before the Red Sea split. Elijah heard God not in the wind or fire, but in a gentle whisper. Even Jesus withdrew to silent mountains before walking on stormy waters. Silence isn't absence, it's alignment. When you can be still, you discover strength that noise hides. You begin to realize that you're not fighting alone, that unseen hands are already working behind the curtain. Sometimes God says, be still, not because nothing's happening, but because everything is. Stillness is where faith matures. It's where you stop asking, why me? And start declaring, use me. It's where tears turn into trust and confusion turns into calm. The world may call it waiting, but heaven calls it preparation. If you can't find peace in stillness, you'll never find it in success. Because peace doesn't come when everything makes sense. It comes when you surrender the need to control. The chosen learn that God does His best work in the quiet, when your hands are off and your heart is open. So, if you're in a season of silence, where nothing seems to move, where doors aren't opening, where heaven feels quiet, don't panic. Stay still. The silence is not a sign of abandonment. It's the sound of construction. Heaven is building what you prayed for. Be still, not because you've given up, but because you trust the one who's never failed. The storm will pass. The path will open. And when it does, you'll realize that stillness wasn't your pause. It was your power. Every chosen one must face this truth. Real calling costs. It costs your comfort, your pride, your plans, and sometimes even your peace. You cannot be chosen and stay the same. Purpose has a price tag, and the currency isn't money, it's sacrifice. When God calls you higher, He begins to strip away everything that keeps you small. You lose friends who can't grow with you, habits that no longer serve you, and opportunities that once looked golden. It hurts because the calling feels heavy, but the weight you carry is proof that heaven trusts you. Every great calling demands a surrender. Abraham had to leave his home. Moses had to face his fear. Mary had to risk her reputation. Jesus had to carry the cross. Every chosen soul discovers that destiny is not a reward. It's a responsibility. People often admire your anointing but have no idea what it cost you. They see the stage, but not the nights you cried alone. They see your peace, but not the storms you survived. Every chosen one carries silent scars that the world may never notice. But heaven counts every one of them. Sometimes the cost of calling is isolation. You'll outgrow people who loved the old version of you. You'll walk roads where no one follows. But solitude isn't loneliness, it's sacred training. God takes you through empty spaces so you can hear His voice clearly, unfiltered by the noise of approval. And yes, sometimes the calling will break your heart. You'll feel misunderstood, exhausted, stretched beyond what feels fair. But that's the refining fire. It burns away comfort so courage can rise. When you surrender to the calling, you stop living for applause and start living for assignment. The chosen learn something deep. The higher the purpose, the greater the price. You can't reach divine heights with earthly attachments. Every yes to God means saying no to something else. But what you lose in comfort, you gain in clarity. What you sacrifice in temporary pleasure, you gain in eternal purpose. So if your calling feels heavy, don't give up. That's how you know it's real. Easy callings make noise. Divine callings make history. Every tear, every delay, every disappointment, they're not obstacles, they're offerings. You are being stretched, not punished. You are being trusted with something eternal. Remember, the cross was heavy before the crown was holy. And the chosen ones always pay the price, but they also carry the promise. Faith doesn't shine brightest when everything works. It shines when nothing does, when the plan collapses, when the door won't open, when every prayer feels unanswered. That's when faith becomes real. Faith isn't proven by success. It's proven by survival. When everything fails, faith whispers, "Keep walking." It's the quiet fire that refuses to die, even when the rain won't stop. For the chosen, faith isn't just belief. It's endurance. It's standing when you have no reason left but God. Sometimes, God will allow everything to fall apart. Not to break you, but to show you that your foundation was never built on those things anyway. You thought the job was your security. The friend was your strength. The plan was your purpose, until He removed them, and you realized faith was all you had. And here's the mystery. When faith is all you have, you finally discover it's all you need. Faith isn't loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It moves quietly, like roots growing underground. You don't see it working, but one day the fruit appears. That's what makes the chosen different. They walk by unseen strength, trusting promises they can't yet touch. There will be moments when doubt screams louder than hope, nights when you question if God still remembers your name. But faith doesn't need to see the full map. It only needs to take the next step. Because faith isn't about knowing, it's about trusting. Abraham didn't know where he was going. Joseph didn't know when the prison would end. Daniel didn't know if the lions would stay calm. But they walked, they waited, and they believed. That's what made them chosen. Not certainty, but courage. And listen, faith doesn't always remove the storm, but it will carry you through it. It won't stop the fire, but it will make sure you come out without the smell of smoke. Faith isn't magic, it's mastery. The mastery of your mind, your emotions, your fears. When everything fails, faith becomes your language. You start saying thank you, even while you bleed. You start praising before you see the promise. And that's when heaven moves. Not at the sound of your complaints, but at the sound of your confidence. So if you're in a season where nothing makes sense, hold on. Faith is building something that sight cannot yet see. You might not feel strong, but faith doesn't need your strength. It gives you strength. Because when everything fails, faith doesn't. And when faith stands, heaven moves. Listen, if life has broken you, it's not because you were weak. It's because you were chosen. Every pain, every lonely night, every unanswered prayer. It wasn't random. It was part of a divine plan that only makes sense when you look back from victory. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. The chosen ones walk roads others fear. They love deeply, hurt silently, and rise repeatedly. They don't fit in because they were never meant to blend in. They were designed to stand out. And maybe that's why your life felt harder. Because you were carrying something heaven refused to waste. God doesn't call the comfortable. He calls the broken. He uses the scarred to heal the wounded, the rejected to reach the forgotten, the quiet to shake the world. And every tear you've cried has watered a seed that will soon bloom into purpose. You didn't lose time. You were in training. You didn't fall behind. You were being refined. The same walls that trapped you are the same stones God will use to build your platform. So don't let your pain silence your purpose. Don't let your past rewrite your identity. You are not your scars. You are the story of how grace refused to let you die. The world doesn't need another perfect voice. It needs a real one. It needs your voice. Trembling maybe, but true. Because somewhere, someone is praying for the kind of strength your story will give them. So rise, wipe your tears. Stand again. You're not too late. You're not too broken. You're not forgotten. You are the proof that God still uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And when you finally walk into the purpose you were born for, you'll look back and whisper the truth. Every pain was worth it, because chosen ones are not remembered for how they suffered. They are remembered for how they rose.